Hello, mountain bikers. Jeff Bryant's here, back with another bike review, this time the all-new Transition Spur. Before I get into it, I just want to mention I did get this bike on loan from Transition for about a month. I didn't get paid by them. I don't get paid. They don't support this channel. In fact, they're not even going to see this review before it goes live. So there's no relationship in that capacity, but I just want to be really upfront about how I'm getting product. So let's get into it. All new bike for Transition, all new category for Transition, 120 millimeters up front, 120 millimeters out back. It's really a cross-country bike, though they're billing it as something a little different, I think to poke fun at how many categories we have in the bike world. This is a bike that is aimed at those that want to do those awesome stage races, cross-country stage races, those longer cross-country races, and those that just want an efficient bike that's still likely going to be fun on the descents. We're going to get into that in a minute. I'm not going to spend too much time on the specs of this bike. You can go check it out on their website. In fact, I don't even have a full spec sheet in front of me for what every model is going to look like, nor do I have pricing, so that's just going to be something I'm going to omit. I'm going to guess it's going to be about a $6,000 bike, and this is the top-end one. I will note that I wasn't on the new Eagle. I was on the old Eagle, but that doesn't seem to really matter for me because I rarely use that gear anyway. I'll also note that this bike has RockShox suspension, sit out back, sit up front. People might ask, why didn't they do like a Super Deluxe or Deluxe like the new Epic Evo? And the reason I believe is the SID is basically the same shock, just taken and put into a smaller package. In fact, I know the engineer really well. He's a buddy of mine, and I've ridden this shock extensively, have nothing but good things to say about it. In a short travel application such as this, I don't think you're going to notice a massive difference. So I just wanted to point that out. So let's get into this review. This is an incredibly efficient bike. This should be no surprise to anybody. I will often compare it to the Trek Top Fuel, which I've had extensive amounts of time on, very similar bike. It's probably more efficient than the Top Fuel and more efficient than most bikes with 120 millimeters of travel. I think partly is due to the kinematics, the way they tuned it. It's also going to be the case because of the lack of pivot, let's say, out back. This isn't an FSR bike like a lot of other Transitions. This is actually a linkage-driven single pivot that relies on the swing arm to flex a little bit as it goes through its travel. Overall, though, I just noticed this was a bike I never really thought about touching the lockout for. They don't have a bar-mounted lockout. I applaud this decision. I don't think it's really appropriate. You just don't really need it. Even when hammering up really steep climbs, it's just I appreciated the little bit of movement I did get, kind of with traction control. Never felt it was excessive, whereas I did on the Trek and like to use the lockout. Let's move to the descending part of the equation. It is a wildly fun bike going downhill. You will note, however, that you run out of travel and bike at certain points. For me, this was usually in steeper terrain or just more gnarly, full-on enduro terrain. This should surprise nobody. That doesn't mean that I was ever in a descent where I felt like I should just walk the bike or something. You can totally ride gnarly stuff on this. You're just going to have to slow down. And you're probably not going to have as much fun. You're going to feel it more in your body. I noticed that as well, as my body would get more fatigued on longer descents, which is, again, to be expected. But compared to like a Scalpel or a Super Caliber or something like that, I had way more fun. One thing this bike does maybe better than any other bike I've ridden in this category, or really maybe ever, is corner. The geometry is absolutely nailed. The overall way the bike feels going through the twisties is second to none. Transition also specs some pretty damn good tires that roll fast, and I think that has a lot to do with it. But overall, this thing, I cannot stress how fun it is to corner in any capacity, like whether you're railing a berm, railing a flat corner, or just changing direction to miss some rocks or something like that. It encourages riders to kind of slice and dice and really have fun changing direction. It also is real easy to jump and manipulate. It's so light. It kind of reminds me of a BMX bike in that way. It's just like it pumps really well. You get a lot of energy out of everything, and that makes it really fast. And I set a lot of KOMs going downhill on this on smoother descents. So where is this bike best? Who's it best for? That sort of thing. One thing I think you can't overlook is how many trails there might be in your area that you seldom go visit because they're just further out there, and your heavier bike just doesn't really encourage you to go explore. This bike encourages you to explore. One thing I think you might be surprised about is going up really short, steep ascents. You're not going to be that much faster, I would wager, on this bike. Like 1,000 vertical feet that it's really steep, you'll be a little faster, but not much. Where this really shines, and where you're going to notice a cross-country bike's a lot faster if you're coming from an enduro bike, is your longer climbs and your longer days. So if it's a long, moderately graded climb, you're going to put minutes. Let's test its skids. Really good skids. I give it like a 10 out of 10 on the skids. Look at that. Just
skids, man.
Very good wheelie marks.
Excellent.
It's in your previous personal best, I would wager. And if it's a, let's say, big day, let's say 50 miles or something like that, you're going to actually have fun through most of those 50 miles. You're not just going to be suffering the whole time, unless you choose to, which I often do. It lets you go and go and go, and it's fast and it's fun, and it's purely about adventure. I think that's really cool. A couple side points or caveats I'll say that I didn't necessarily love or we could upgrade. I don't love the low cockpit. That's just my personal preference. I wish they gave you a little more wiggle room there. I also think that if you're going to upgrade one part, I'm not knocking Transition for this at all, by the way, because the cost is substantial. I don't know what to say. I would put better wheels and tires on it for the application. So I'd put like a racy set of carbon wheels, though I'm not generally a carbon wheel guy, and I'd put some cross-country race rubber on this just for those races that I love so much, like the Big Sky Biggie or the Grand Junction Epic, whatever it's called. Any of those longer 40, 50, 60-mile races on up, just a lighter wheel set would go a long way. Also, I'm sure get the question, can you jump it? The answer is obviously yes. It's funny that we don't consider cross-country bikes jumpable, and that used to be because cross-country geometry sucks so bad. What Transition's really done here is taken everything they've learned over the years about bike handling and applied it to a lightweight package, and you just get an incredibly interesting, awesome machine with that. And that means, yeah, you can jump it just like you can jump any bike. It, like I mentioned earlier, reminds me of a slalom bike, and those jump great. And you know, slope style guys jump massive stuff with less travel, and BMX guys don't even have travel and make me want to go crawl in a hole and cry myself to sleep because of how bad of a bike handler I am. So turning to a direct comparison to the Trek, which one of these two bikes would I buy? Trek's a little more active out back. It's a little heavier, a little racier cockpit, a little steeper geometry, not much. Overall, I would give a tip of the cap to the Transition in just about every way, with the biggest being the company behind the bike. I'm not going to lie, I haven't had the best luck with Trek warranty services in the past, whereas I've had the best luck with Transition warranty services. And I'm not saying they just give away parts willy-nilly, but they're going to take care of you no matter what, be it a crash replacement, be it taking, finding stock of something that'll work to get you back on trail. They just care about their bikes and their riders and people that spend money on their bikes. Because I'm really not sure Trek cares about you riding a bike another day of your life. It just, that sounds mean, but that's the upside to having a completely independent YouTube channel. I can say whatever I want. This is just my net feeling, and this is something I've felt way before I had any relationship with anybody at Transition. They have overnighted me bearings before a race. They didn't even know my name. They have helped get me a crash replacement to a chainstay that I broke, and they did so very quickly and at a very reasonable cost. We're talking low hundreds of dollars, which I thought was really cool of them. They just seem to take care of their riders, and they treat you like they care. So this is the biggest reason I would go with this bike over the Trek. They both perform admirably. I can't barely say that word. And they're both really fun. I'm going to echo very similar thoughts with both of these, and I could honestly have a ton of fun on either one of these, but it just seems at the end of the day, I'm going to pick the bike that comes from the company that stands behind their product, and that is unquestionably Transition. I will also say there's no doubt about it, this bike corners better. So just a side note, and cornering is the most fun thing you can do on a bike, in my opinion. So there's also that. In closing, I just want to mention that I've considered throwing this entire YouTube channel in the trash, alienating myself from the entire bike industry and everybody that I care about by just stealing this bike. They did send it to me, and I have no contract, so I've considered just being like, you know what, sorry Lars, you're a great guy, but I'm going to keep the bike you so graciously loaned to me because I like it that much. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and hit that subscribe button, tell your friends. I want this to grow. I know I'm long-winded, that sort of thing. It's kind of like a podcast with video behind it, but I want it to continue to grow, and I want to continue to share all my thoughts with you guys. I've got a lot of experience. I want to get out there, but that only happens if I get more subscribers to make it more worth my while, and I hear more people in my ear going, please give me more. So tell me if I should give you more. Thanks. Cheers.